Alright, I'm going to upload a video to YouTube about installing Windows 10 on a Mac. Now, this is a friend's Mac Pro, 2011-2012 model. It was getting that old and slow, she was nearly going to throw it out. But due to the fact she doesn't really do a lot on the web, there was no justification in buying a new one. I convinced her that it would be as simple as putting an SSD in this, and that is all she'd need. And I gave her the option of a 250 gig or 500 gig model in one of these Samsung 860 EVOs. 250 would have been for if she was going to stay with just the Mac OS, or 500 if she wanted the best of both worlds and having it dual boot both Mac OS and Windows 10. So she went for this. And due to the fact she was just about to have a baby, there was no rush on this, so I took a computer and I had all the time I needed basically. Now, I hate Apple, always have, and any time I ever have to do a job for someone relating to something Apple, it's something painfully simple, but Apple just needs to just make everything ridiculously difficult, which just even further makes it that I'll never own any of their crap. But at the same time, I don't mind playing around with it for something different. So I quickly figured out that it was Option Command and the letter R to get into the recovery menu, where I told the Mac to reinstall the operating system. But before I got to that, I plugged this into my Windows laptop externally and initialised the disk first. And you want it to be GPT from memory, not MBR. So make sure you get that one right for a start. You don't have to format partitions on it or anything like that. Just initialise the disk, and this here will take care of the rest. So I plugged it into Ethernet as well, because some of them do have issues with Wi-Fi. But Ethernet's always quicker. So I've done that, and that loaded up the OSX, no dramas. I then set about looking at Boot Camp Assistant and all that sort of stuff, and pretty quickly had it installing Windows 10. But no matter what I tried to do, every time I would install Windows 10, everything would work except for the sound. Now, I googled this extensively, and there were just pages and pages and pages of people with the same problem. But nothing anybody was saying was really fixing anything. There was, countless videos, countless images. And look, here's a good image example. This is practically the same as what I've seen, except for the word Intel. Mine just had high definition audio with that exclamation, and it didn't matter what drivers I used, it just still would not work. So it was back to the drawing board and doing loads of research. Now, the ISO I had chosen for Windows 10 was build 1809, and I started to wonder whether maybe this was sort of like a compatibility issue. So what I ended up trying first was I went to a website I use frequently called windowsiso.net, and I went looking for build 1607. And look, they've got every ISO you can imagine on here, so I simply picked a single language one, so like English US, 64-bit, so not as big as your multi-language ones, quicker to download, quicker to put on a USB, all that sort of thing. Loaded that on an on a USB. At the same time, I put this thing back into recovery mode, went into the disk utility and deleted every partition and completely erased that SSD, and then told it to reinstall macOS again. And right at the end of the macOS installation, there was this 5-volt disk encryption, and I turned both of these off, because one of the other issues I'd been having with Boot Camp Assistant was when I'd go to create the partition, it would just sit there for hours and hours and hours and it wouldn't progress. And this apparently was the cause. And when you're all done, this is something you can actually turn back on later if you wish. So I'd done that. I then went into the Boot Camp Assistant. At the same time while I was doing that, I plugged in that USB drive and copied the Windows ISO to the desktop. And went through these steps. So you tick all the boxes. The first one creates the install disk. It asks you for an ISO, so you direct that to where you've copied it to. Then it downloads everything it requires to get Mac hardware working on a Windows system. And then the final stage is to install Windows 7 on the computer. And when you click continue, the next page you'll see is similar to this. And in my case, I just simply clicked on divide equally, and that split up the two partitions to be roughly 250 gig each. Then I clicked on partition, and the computer restarted, and it installed Windows, no problems at all. Now, if I fire this up, it automatically defaults into Windows, so I'm going to hold in the Option key. So we have our choices here, both Windows and Mac. We'll go Mac first. I'm a bit distracted at the moment. I'm doing another install. I've just put a new graphics card in a gaming PC I'm building, and I'm reinstalling Windows 10. Okay, I'll just sign in. Now this thing used to take like 3 minutes or more to start up. Now it's just basically instant. And look, everything you click on comes up pretty much straight away. So she's going to love this when she gets it back. I've put a few programs on there, but she'll be able to put the rest on that she wants. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I can add from the Mac side of it. Not really. Basically, the only thing that didn't work in the finish was from both operating systems telling them to restart into the other one, but like, hey, who cares? Basically, all you got to do is either shut it down or go restart, which we're going to go now. And the second you hear that noise, the startup noise, which is now, hold in your Option key, and it brings up the two options. But I'm going to hold that in and turn it off. Okay, it's now off, because as I was saying, it'll default into Windows anyway, so I'm just going to let that do that, just to show. But yeah, I cannot believe for a Core i5 third generation with only 4 gig of RAM, it runs incredibly well. Alright, we're already into Windows here. Once again, I'll chuck in the password. And that there's pretty well loaded. So open Chrome. See, straight up. And what we might do, oh, there you go. There's proof sound works. Just go to YouTube. And there we go. So everything is working as intended. I'm going to check an old song on, I don't care what it is. Quite loud too, I was surprised. Because there were some users complaining about sound not being real good or whatnot, but look, that could be driver issues as well. But one last thing I will touch on is once I got this far, I went through the update settings and everything, and it eventually successfully updated itself to the latest build. No dramas whatsoever. And if we go here and go to Home, System, and all the way down to About, you'll see it's a Core i5 3210 with 4 gig of RAM. And there we go, Windows 10 Home, single language 1809. And it's running Mojave or whatever it's called on the macOS side. So there we go. Dual booting iOS or OSX or whatever it's called, and Windows 10 on a MacBook Pro. Done right, really simple.